Welcome everyone to our 2024 Roadmap AMA. I think that we've had pretty spectacular 2023 and really excited to show everybody what's ahead and take all your questions. So let's start with where we're at and kind of what's coming for Hifi Finance. So I'm Doug, CEO of Hifi Labs. And, we have been working for the past 2 years to develop out our fixed rate lending protocol. And we're live on Ethereum mainnet. And we are excited to bring on more and more real world assets. So right now, we have some really good challenges in front of us. We've got lots of borrowing demand, and we have way more than we can actually handle. And so looking forward, our greatest bottleneck is getting liquidity into the protocol. And so a lot of our 2024 plans is all about TVL. And what you're going to hear from me today, which won't come as a surprise, is that everything that we're doing internally on the Hifi Labs team and where we're pointed with our roadmap is 100% points back to TVL. We ask ourselves, these questions. What is going to have the greatest impact on TVL? That's where we want to spend our time. So let's, I'll start going through the first couple questions, and they might, jump around a bit because I'm just pulling from, how they were posted in Discord. So will retail investors have fractional access to real world asset tokens within the Hifi ecosystem soon, or will token ownership remain centralized? Okay, so this is a really good question, and the answer is what's going to bring us the most amount of TVL, and we have our partnership with Crown Ribbon. The process to get retail access to the fractional shares of the Horse Syndicate has taken far longer than I expected. I thought we would be live by now. And we have received back our second response now from the SEC. I know I've shared previously that we had our one response. Our team responded with our lawyers, and now we've received our second response. And so our team is preparing that second response to send back to the SEC. So it does take a lot more work. And especially given that this is our first time and the first asset offering that our team has navigated, I do think it takes a little bit longer than maybe what subsequent ones will do. But I think it's important that we continue to grow TVL regardless, because we burn through capital regardless of if the SEC response takes their time or gets back to us quickly. And so we'll keep pushing forward kind of in parallel on multiple fronts. But I would love, retail, if they're able to get access to these assets and use our protocol, that's more users, which is a growth metric that we care about. So if I can, I would love to, but I'm not going to avoid alternatives while we wait for regulatory approval on retail access for stuff. Of course, always the crypto native assets will be available to retail. I expect we'll always have Ethereum on there, and then I bet maybe a staked Ethereum or something of that sort gets added as well. We've also got Sheet P, our Sheetheads pooled token available to retail. So by and far, retail should have something there, and we'll try to continue to support it as it makes sense. Here's one of our bigger questions for this AMA, and I won't go into complete depth here, but I think I'll give you a lot more information and clarity on kind of what to expect coming up. So here's the question. It says, concerning liquidity, what steps is Hifi taking to boost liquidity by 25x to match the anticipated value of real-world asset collateral? Is there an estimated timeline for when Hifi circulation might be increased to support this liquidity bolstering? Okay, so I think, let me try and repeat back the question. I think essentially what we're looking at here is in the roadmap blog post, we talked about how the the team is going to, try to tackle our liquidity problem head on, and we believe that we can, see a 25x growth in our TVL. Today, we're just above $1 million in TVL, and our goal is within the next 12 months to be at more than 25 million. I totally think this is attainable, and let me kind of break down this like problem set for you and what we're expecting to do here. So first, just to set the stage, what we're looking at here is something that every other DeFi protocol has dealt with already. And so it's how do you bootstrap liquidity? And you'll see them put together different liquidity programs where they want capital to come in to different parts of their protocol. And in our case, our growth bottleneck is around the lending liquidity and the LP liquidity. And so we can't grow without growth in our supply side liquidity, as I like to call it. So so this is something that a bunch of other projects have all tackled, and we've really have the advantage of looking at them, seeing what works and what doesn't, and integrating that into our community. So that gives us a really big advantage. And when you look at these projects, you see that when they're successful, it creates this really cool flywheel effect that is, kind of the whole point of this is we want to create this flywheel effect where, we increase TVL, you get more, borrowers, which gives you more lenders, which increases TVL, which brings more users, which is, increases our community size, which helps grow TVL. So this flywheel effect is exactly like what we're trying to accomplish here. And so having the advantage of looking at all the other DeFi protocols and their programs and researching what works and what doesn't work, I think positions us really well. So when we break down the actual problem, like what are we trying to accomplish here? It's very, very simple. It's maximize liquidity and minimize costs. That's it. And so we put together a list of like, hey, if we can meet these conditions, I think we've got probably one of the best liquidity programs out there. And so let's talk about what these requirements were. So the requirements that I presented to the team, I said, hey, let's avoid emitting any new Hifi tokens during weaker economic periods. And if we are going to emit Hifi tokens for growth, let's assure ourselves and make sure that it's only during the stronger economic periods. And so that was requirement number one. Like, let's be careful about when we emit, if we're going to emit for growth. And then the second and more challenging requirement that I gave them, I says, look, if this program doesn't work, I want to be able to reset everything back to exactly where we're at today. I want an undo button. I want to Control Z the program. And that's a pretty tall order. But thing is, I already know what our proposal is. I already know that it actually meets all these requirements. And I'm actually really excited to share it with you. But I need to go over a couple of things there. So first, I need this cannot be said enough, which is that as we bring in this liquidity, it's owned by Hifi token holders, no one else. This isn't resources that are being used to pay salaries for Hifi labs, anything like that. This is 100% owned by Hifi token holders. And then two, next week is an American holiday, and we want to spend it with our families. And so we are not going to deliver the proposal to you today. I'm not going to, give it all out on this AMA. That's not the purpose of what this AMA is. But I promise you this, that we'll give it to you not next Wednesday, but the following Wednesday. And we'll be available to answer all your questions. And I think you're honestly going to love it. It's super simple, super elegant, and meets all those, avoids all the unnecessary trade-offs that our team has worked really hard to research. So looking forward to that. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to jump over to This is a Crown Ribbon question again. Why was the new proposal for Crown Ribbon submitted to the SEC on October 12th? This is we submit new proposals every time we get questions answers back to back from the SEC, and so it's just a part of the process. You'll probably see another one come out from us, and hopefully before Christmas, as we submit back our next our next response to the SEC. What is Hifi's contingency plan if the FCC rejects its real-world asset request? Well, if they're rejected on the courses, like these horses are still owned by somebody, and so like we'll make a credit facility available to them. And so it's not like our success here is not totally predicated on SEC approval, but the type of growth and the type of opportunity that we have imagined really is. And so like we can't give the opportunity for retail investors to purchase these assets unless the SEC approves it. And that's what we're really interested in, is tapping into that market. So how does Hifi plan to handle KYC for the real world asset strategy for the assets that's required? We plan to, in this case, our partner is Crown Ribbon around the horses. And so, you'll KYC to get onto the platform. And so, yeah, I think that we're rule followers and not trying to push any boundaries on the legal front. We're just trying to make sure that we can pioneer some of the structures around how this happens and then correct as needed. And so it's a bit of an experimentation and learning process for us. All right. Let me look at this next question. The anticipated timeline for onboarding more real world assets. It's half a function of bandwidth and liquidity. So as liquidity grows, like right now, there's not enough liquidity for a lot of the onboarding of collateral that we are ready to bring on. So, for example, Kevin, who borrowed against his VW bus, his vintage collectible car. If we were to bring another one on there, Kevin borrowed $500,000. There's barely $500,000 worth of liquidity ready for Kevin to pull off again. So we need to get more liquidity on there before any new assets really get added, because no serious borrowing can happen yet. That's why it's our biggest bottleneck for growth. And Hifi Labs has taken it. We basically take every spare dollar we have and we throw it into the protocol, and that's a lot of where the liquidity has been sourced up to this point, and we'll continue to do that. But if we're going to see any material amount of growth, the amount of growth that is powered by Hifi Labs, excess resources, is way too slow. There's just no way that we can do anything interesting without additional levers to pull for Hifi's growth. So that's what we've done. Is Hifi shifting its focus towards niche markets like horses and vintage cars to more traditional markets like real estate? So yeah, in the blog post, we talked about where we wanted to do some real estate stuff. And the idea here is just to continue to have interesting stories to tell and tap into a different type of asset class that has a different risk exposure. Part of mitigating risk is having diversification in the assets, so that, for example, if something happens in the horse world and, there's a virus going around and all these horses are, unable to race, the car world or the housing markets are not impacted. And thus we have, as a broad protocol, diversification. And so there's not these mass liquidation events that are all happening across our entire TVL. And so that becomes important. And so we're looking for diversification here. Let's see. More questions around like what type of real estate and stuff are we looking for? I don't really have more details to share on that today. The real pivot into real world assets is we looked at like the volatility of crypto and the importance of being solvent for the protocol and taking care of token holders to avoid any bad debt being accumulated into the protocol. We really wanted to find things that naturally have cash flow. That way, in a very worst case scenario, there's an ability to have the cash flow itself pay back the debt or pay down the debt, and it just makes it materially changes the type of risk factors there. So diversification is the main thing we're looking for. So I don't have like a particular profile outside of like I prefer things that are cash flowing. Like for example, with that vintage bus, VW was renting that bus from Kevin, and so he was actually making income on it. That was something that really stood out to me as to why this VW bus versus something else, because it was cash flowing, and so that's kind of how I think about these things. Are there any plans for point-of-sale lending for real-world or digital assets? And has the team considered using zero interest rate bonds for leasing? There's no plans around point-of-sale lending. I think that's kind of outside of the scope of what our team would take on. And have we considered zero interest rate bonds? Well, without getting too much into it, at the bottom part of our last, the last blog post, we talk about some upgrades that are coming to both, the protocol and to the Hifi, token economic model. And as a part of those upgrades, I think that there will be additional flexibility in what we can offer. And I do see us doing some interest-free loans and trying to use that as a growth tool where we can attract new users with, kind of short-term, very low-rate loans. And so, I think that would be, very interesting. But no integration into any sort of point of sale type stuff right now. What are Hifi's plans for further integration with Sablier? Today, as I look at, I probably need to go back and revisit, where we've kind of said we're going to go and experiment, because we have pulled back in some areas, and this is one of them. Right now, there's no kind of any sort of formal plan for integrating with Sablier, and I think that aligns with today's focus on TVL. If there's a way that we can drive more TVL to Hifi, then like they're an obvious partner. The Sablier team is doing phenomenally well. They're doing awesome. They're some of the best, smartest people out there, and so it's such a natural place to look to for partnership opportunity and cooperation because we've worked so well together in the past. And so, but like as of today, and us just focusing on TVL, I would just need to visit with them about like, is there something obvious here? But one of the challenging things around Sablier is, your stream is constantly, emitting its value. And so it will have to be a pretty particular niche use case that I don't think would probably materially drive our TVL at this point. Or maybe I'm missing something and I just need to have them explain it to me. But no plans right now. Though with our pooled NFT and liquidity infrastructure that we built, it is technically possible. And that's what we originally imagined is like, oh, these are all the things that we can possibly do. And now it's come time to like really focus in on TVL. So we're kind of doubling down on, real world assets and anywhere else where we'll find material TVL, which is total value locked in the protocol. Can you detail the benefits of the Horseyman partnership with Crown Ribbon, specifically the perks related to horse breeding, racing, or financial type of benefits? The short answer is no. Do I know exactly what we intend to do there? Yes. Do I want you to wait until we actually launch? Yes, because that's part of our promotion at that point in time. We baked it into our Sheethead NFT collection, so yeah, I don't think I'll divulge into exactly what that is. But I personally know what I intend to do there, and so it's something to look forward to for sure. I don't know exactly when the Crown Ribbon platform is going to launch. Our team actually has been spending a lot of cycles building out that entire platform for Crown Ribbon with our partnership there. And so tons of progress have been making there. And I think we'll be really excited and proud to show the community that product, once it's ready to launch. How can horse owners benefit from borrowing without risking their assets? And the answer is you can't. You can't borrow without risking your assets, and that's part of the arrangement between lenders and borrowers is this promissory note to repay. And if you don't repay, well, then the legal consideration you have or the practical consideration you have on blockchain is certain permission rights under certain market conditions to liquidate assets. And so it's no different with horses and those assets, except that the liquidation, instead of happening on chain and relying on a large pool of liquidity on chain, we work with actual auction houses and with professionals who can either do an over-the-counter transaction for these horses to get them sold quickly so that we can cover our basis for what was lent out and not incur any bad debt into the protocol. So it's part of the trade-offs. If you're going to borrow against something, you are putting it at risk. Is a dedicated pool for these assets being considered? Real-world assets really work a little bit differently, and they're a little bit more capital efficient because of it, as long as there's an actual market for these things. Where we use the existing infrastructure in the real world to help liquidate those things. So, for example, if Kevin were to default on his car, we would go through likely a antiques auction and auction it off and recover our costs and recover any lent resources. Which is why, with the antique car, there was a partnership with Finance Ventures. And they're the ones who are managing the off-chain stuff. And our credit is actually, we're extending Finance Ventures credit, which then extends credit to Kevin. So there's a whole blog post on the architecture for our real-world asset lending. And we went with this model because it has the most mature legal frameworks and clarity around people's roles, their obligations, and protecting the protocol from bad debt. Have Crown Ribbon horses won any prizes in recent events? Has there been any financial gains from the sale of these horses? Actually, yes. We just sold. There's 100 horses in this horse syndicate, and so I don't know them all by name yet. And I spent last month. I went down to Oklahoma for the Pink Buckle to meet with our partners there. And yes, we participated. Yes, we did sell some of our horses, some of the higher, I think there was one of the, highest end horses. We sold some of the new yearlings. And so and that's kind of the process here is that, you grow your herd and then you sell off the ones, that you want to prune out of the herd, and then you keep the fastest ones and you try to get, good genetics through purchasing, reproductive outputs from these horses. And so, off the top of my head, I can't speak to any specifics. Once we launch, we haven't even launched the syndicate or the branding around it. I know some people have found our website and stuff for the horse syndicate. It's not called Crown Ribbon, but you could probably go and find this stuff. I know that there was an article in the U.S. Quarter Horse Association magazine this month on our partners with Crown Ribbon, Chad and Tiffany Buse. And so there are things happening, and there's, it's a whole operation running behind the scenes that, a lot of times we're not spending a lot of marketing cycles on. But when new fowls are born and new, events type happen, I try to feed in what I can over into the Crown Ribbon Twitter. So yeah, and the nice thing is on all the sales of these horses, our valuation that we've had on these horses was pretty accurate, and so I feel very comfortable with that operation, how everything's happening there, and excited to bring it to market. Can you share details about Hifi's marketing efforts 2024? So our marketing efforts are really going to be a lot of marketing directed at our existing community, because this is who is going to help us bootstrap our 25x growth in TVL. And so educating around that, because remember, like Hifi Labs, like we've already got access to over $100 billion in borrowing demand. And this is massive. Like, you know, we're barely at $1 million TVL. We've got the opportunity for over $100 million of borrowing demand. And so it's all about just hammering home, you know, our growth bottleneck, which is purely, you know, trying to get that flywheel effect into our protocol so that we can see this massive expansion within our ecosystem. So it is not, our challenge right now is not finding borrowers. Our challenge right now is actually finding lenders and LPs and finding the liquidity into the protocol. What are the new developments in tokenomic structure for Hifi? Okay, so this is another one where, like one of the benefits for the Horseman NFTs with Crown Ribbon, that I'm going to defer to until later. And the main reason is this. One is, as we get closer to these things, it becomes a lot more clear exactly what we can offer. And then two is, when I put information out there, you end up getting a lot more questions back. And our focus right now today is all about this, bootstrapping of liquidity and maximizing TVL within the Hifi protocol. And then in parallel, we are working on these upgrades to the Hifi protocol, which will include improvements to our token economic model. And I think that is all I should share today and want to share today, because as we get closer, then it gives you a reason to re-engage and to understand what's happening in kind of these exciting new developments. So it is something to look forward to in 2020. Towards I won't even estimate, because it will be used against me, I'm certain. But look forward to that. And I'll just pause and take a moment. Any plans for allocation for staking? Well, we don't have staking today, and so of course, Hifi token holders are in control of this. Like, if you see a mechanism out there, like, let's talk about it. If there's something interesting, we have been a follower in the space, where we're not the first one to innovate in a particular area, where we take tried and true principles and then we go after markets that we know have product market fit, like real world assets people have been borrowing against forever. And so we know that this customer exists. And so I think that so if you see something interesting and it makes sense, I'm all ears. I would love to do anything interesting that makes sense. Mark is saying, thanks for clarifications, going through step by step. It's hard sometimes to watch from outside. Good to see there's still development moving. Hope it turns out in a good way finally. Well, it's been good for most of us who have been here for a while. So stick around, Marcus. It's it's been a good ride for most of the community here. While you can't be specific, do you think their perks for horsing will be worth it in the wait for holders and include them as part of the Crown Ribbon journey? I mean, that's totally, it's just such it's a question that I can't even touch. So I mean, there's nothing to add there. So as we wrap it up, last opportunity to throw, we're coming up on an hour now. So I'll sum it up. We've had a very big year of development in 2023. As we look forward to 2024, we're focusing in on kind of our home stretch with the contract between Hifi Labs and Hifi DAO, where we are very much focused on growing TVL. Our attention will be allocated to wherever we believe we can bring on the most TVL to Hifi, the protocol. And we have some exciting things planned. Just from a growth perspective, our goal is to grow by more than 25x our TVL. And we've got some protocol updates that will make us more competitive across industries, not just specific for lending against NFTs, lending against lending against crypto native assets, but across different real world asset industries. We're hoping to do, as soon as we can get liquidity, we can lend more. And we really want to get this flywheel started. And so that's our focus. I can't wait, in 2 weeks to share with you our proposal for bootstrapping liquidity into the Hifi protocol. So doubling down on real world assets, 25x TVL growth is our goal. And so let's see, 2024 is the year we scale Hifi. Looking forward to it. Thanks for being a part of our community. We'll see you in the next one.